All right. Thank you all so much for having me here. Can you hear me, everybody? Okay, cool. I might, I'm a kind of wanderer, so I might kind of wander around. I'm going to try to stay still. Huh? I also, oh, cool. Yeah. Got karaoke. All right. So I'm going to start with an Elvis Presley song. No, I'm just joking. I won't do that. Thank you all so much for having me here. Just a quick little bit about me. I only have an hour and 15 minutes, 14 minutes to go through this important training. But my name is Brian Edwards. Proud to be here. I'm going to kind of share my journey, which brought me to NAN over the years. But one of the things that I enjoy teaching, and one of the things that is very relevant to my life now, both personally and in my volunteer life as a volunteer firefighter, is harm reduction or is substance use emergencies. We're responding to so many mental health emergencies and substance use emergencies in my little community than ever before. So this is very relevant training. Why I'm qualified and passionate to train this again is because we're getting many calls about this. But during COVID, I actually taught a form of this training. It was a national virtual course through St. John Ambulance where I had the luxury of teaching up to 50 students, but all across the country. So I heard many different stories that draw a lot of similarities. So this is a slide deck that I put together. Some of you folks may have this training already. So just bear in mind we're all at different levels. Also keep in mind that there's no dumb questions. Okay, don't be shy to ask a question. Please, I don't have all the answers, but I can certainly do my best to get those answers for us. I'm hoping to have a little bit of time at the end of this presentation, if I don't blab, I talk too much, to address any questions. And also what I have on this table here, I have some resources on this side. Everybody should have a Save Me poster with them. Everybody should also have another poster called Opioids 101. Also, I have another poster that if any of you are in need of more naloxone for your community, I'm your contact through NAN to get you more naloxone for your community. I made up a little poster for that. So come grab these posters, come see me after the training, and I'll certainly be able to address any questions. So thank you so much for having me here. This is opioid poisoning and nasal naloxone response training. What I want to achieve with us this afternoon in the hour and 11 minutes that I have left is opioid awareness and harm reduction. I'm going to share a lot of my resources that I've learned and shared over the years on how I've educated myself a little bit further with opioids and certainly harm reduction. I'm going to talk about what naloxone is. I'm going to have us open up our naloxone kits and get familiar with the contents in our naloxone kits. I'm going to show you what a typical opioid poisoning looks like. I have our mannequin over here. This is the mannequin that I use because this is one of my only mannequins that actually has nostrils. And I have some trainers to show you exactly what it looks like. We're going to have the camera actually zoom in so that everybody can see it on the big screen as well. So I'm not only going to show you what a typical poisoning looks like, but I'm going to show you how to reverse that poisoning using life-saving measures, which includes nasal naloxone. And this Save Me steps. So the Save Me acronym is the acronym that I adapted through St. John Ambulance. The British Columbia Health Authority also adapts the Save Me acronym. And as we know, when we have the conversation about opioid crisis in Canada, we talk about the province of British Columbia and the city of Thunder Bay. Okay, it's not the province of Ontario, it's the city of Thunder Bay and the province of British Columbia. That's something that I learned over the years in teaching this. Also, after I'm done teaching how to rescue somebody in a poisoning state, I'm going to address after the rescue. I'm a first aid instructor through St. John and the Red Cross, and an often overlooked component of first aid, whether that's physical first aid or mental health first aid, is comfort. Okay, in this case, comfort for the person, hopefully after a reversal of a poisoning, as well as comfort for yourself. Okay, so I'm a burned out healthcare worker, so I did that direct healthcare up in Moose Factory, James Bay for a number of years, 3 years. And then I continued that journey in Thunder Bay working with people with brain injury. And I burned myself out. So when I talk about self-care, I truly mean and stress the importance of self-care. Okay, let's keep going here. Come on, clicker. There we go. My purpose, provide a basic knowledge of opioids, an understanding of opioid drug use, harm reduction prevention, risk factors for poisoning, and what a typical rescue looks like using naloxone and other life-saving measures. All right, let's get right into it, folks. If I go a little bit faster, skip through some slides, just keep in mind that I am being cognizant of time. Opioid awareness and harm reduction. So opioids are a type of drugs. They're called a depressant, right? So they're the type of drugs that slow everything down, right? Slow everything down. Our thinking, our actions, our movement, right? All of the quadrants of that medicine circle that we talk about. Slow everything down, including the person's breathing, right? So when I talk about somebody going into a poisoning, and I'm going to explain why I refer to it as a poisoning in just a moment, their breathing is shutting down. Okay, that is what is killing that person. Okay, and it's going to shut down to the point where their breathing will stop completely. And then we know that only 2 to 3 minutes after somebody's breathing stops, their heart is going to stop beating as well. So that's what leads them down that journey. My journey in learning about opioids, and I think Janine had mentioned my new dog's name, Eleanor, is a very unique name. I named my new dog Eleanor after my old dog, Rigby. So there you go. I'm a Beatles fan, hence the long hair, right? This is my old dog, Rigby. Rigby lost her leg. Okay, she was a rescue dog. They found a cancer on her leg, so it was either amputate, which I couldn't afford, but MasterCard could. So I saved my dog for a year. She was a wonderful dog, great with kids. But when I remember picking Rigby up at the vet, and she was laying there on her little blanket, and she had a patch on her stump, okay, where her leg used to be. So, and this was a vet that I know. I used to work with his wife. And the vet says to me, he says, Brian, see that patch on Rigby? You have 3 days to bring that patch back, or I have to call the police, okay, if you don't bring it back. And I laughed. That's my first reaction for most things, right? But he said, no, I'm serious, right? So I kind of researched that patch, and that was called a fentanyl patch, which is a slow release medication. And I found out at the time, this was maybe 2010, 2012, a used patch that was on my dog for 3 days on the streets of Thunder Bay could yield about $400 on the black market, I guess they call it. So, and I also found out what happens to that patch for people who need that desired relief, what they do with it. So that led me down this journey into learning more about opioids, especially living in Thunder Bay, and then having the opportunity when the St. John Ambulance opportunity came around to teach opioids. I learn a lot from people who use drugs. Those are the folks with lived experiences. Those are the experts as far as I'm concerned. So I'll share some examples kind of that, especially when it comes to terminology over the course of this slide deck. All right, so let's break it down a little bit. So an opiate. So we've heard an opiate, an opioid. So an opiate is a natural plant. Okay, so that's if you hear opiate, it's natural. Okay, so what do we mean by natural? We mean morphine. Okay, we mean codeine. We mean life-saving medication. Okay, those are life-saving pain relief medications. Okay, and that comes from a natural plant called the poppy. Okay, this is one type of plant that I can't kill. I'm really good at growing plastic ones, but this is one that's very rigorous, especially where I live, and is a wild flower. The poppy seeds, it's actually the black poppy seeds that is used to make most of all of this, especially heroin. Okay, heroin is 10 times more potent than morphine. Remember that. Okay, heroin is 10 times more potent than morphine. So what is an opioid? Okay, an opioid is man-made. Okay, so an opioid is synthetic or semi-synthetic, meaning man-made. Okay, so typical opioids include methadone, fentanyl, carfentanil. Carfentanil, 10,000 times more potent than morphine. Okay, and that's not a typo. Okay, heroin is 10 times more potent than morphine. Carfentanil, 10,000 times more potent than morphine. Okay, here's a slide I want you to remember, and maybe, actually, I'll hand this out, okay? And I just want you to look at this, okay? Here's a vial right here, okay? And I'll hand these out in a moment. So this vial in my hand, okay, is enough heroin to kill an average drug user, okay? So that's about, it's just salt, relax. But this is about 3 milligrams of heroin, okay? This here, okay, which I'm going to hand around so you could have a closer look, is enough fentanyl. okay, a synthetic, man-made drug, okay, used for pain relief quality to kill an average drug user. You could barely see that, okay, a couple of grains. There's one even more powerful now called carfentanil, okay, and carfentanil is what's used to tranquilize elephants, okay, and carfentanil, which as you can see, we just saw 10,000 times more powerful than morphine, is right here, okay, and as you can see, that's about 1 grain, okay. I'm going to hand this out if you don't mind. Just kind of looking at it, I wrote in just the initials on the top of there so that you know which one is heroin, fentanyl, and carfentanil. Not going to get too much into all of them, but I put this cookie on here for a reason. And why I have this cookie on here, not only does it look delicious, but if you've ever eaten chocolate chip cookies, you know that not one chocolate chip cookie contains the same amount of chocolate chips, okay? And the same thing now can be said for a lot of these opioids that we find out there, especially opioids in the form of pills, okay? And I'm gonna share a quick story, okay, which will make sense in a moment. I do a lot of volunteer work, and I remember volunteering at an event, monster trucks. They were in town, and I was going there to see the monster trucks, and then we were doing first aid too, first aid. But it was a great event. But I remember showing up at the branch early, and there was a young volunteer that came in with tears in her eyes, saying, "The only reason I'm here right now, Brian, is for distraction." And just she only lasted the morning. But what had happened was that night, one of her best friends, they found out that week that he got accepted into NOSM, the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. That's a big deal in a young person's life. So this young man on that Friday night, because the event was on Saturday, decided he needed something to calm himself down. Okay, so he went to a friend, to another friend of a friend of a friend, right? And they gave him a blue pill, okay, a royal blue pill. If you remember Royal Blue making its rounds in Thunder Bay. This young man took that pill home and he cut that pill in half. And he put half of it over there. He took half of that pill and he cut it in half again. Okay, so now there's only like one tiny little sliver of that pill, and he took it because he needed to relax. Okay, and he died that night. Okay, and that's the cookie analogy. Okay, meaning that, okay, that one pill, okay, can contain enough fentanyl for that person who uses drugs for a therapeutic release. Okay, or that one pill can contain enough to kill all of us in this room. Okay, there's no quality control, is what I'm talking about. If you are interested in learning more kind of about the fentanyl crisis, the book that provided me with a lot of education is this book right here called Fentanyl Inc. And I'll put it up here at our resource table. Very good book. Cheap on Amazon to order, but provided me with a ton of information that I wish I could talk about more, but I'm constrained with time. So use of opioids becomes a problem, okay? When people don't take them as prescribed, use them for long periods of time, or use illegal street drugs that are made with no control over quantity, potency, or toxicity, okay? And I also put this in here because this is important. People use substances for many different reasons. Everyone's lives, experiences, challenges, and thought processes are different. We can't always understand why someone may use a substance, but we can choose not to judge someone. Using substances does not make you a bad person. Okay, so I just wanted to put that. I'm going to talk more about harm reduction in a moment as well, but I just want to quickly talk about opioids, okay, and what is going on when opioids enter somebody's brain or enter somebody's body. We have hundreds of these, thousands of these receptors in our brain, okay? And the only purpose of these receptors is to wait for an opioid drug to come into that body and cling to these receptors, okay? And that's what's happening right here, okay? The blue part right here are these receptors in someone's brain. The red part are those opioids, okay? What sends somebody into a poisoning, okay? And I think I explained why it was a poisoning with that young man that cut the pill in a quarter, okay? It's called a poisoning because most of these deaths from opioids happen by accident, okay? Meaning that person who's using drugs is not intending to overdose and die. It's happening by accident because of the toxic drug supply. So that's why I say poisoning. But most of these poisonings occur for a number of reasons, which I'm going to go through in a moment, okay? I have another picture here. Oh, sorry, that's kind of further on, but I wanted this slide deck to, or this slide right here, just to kind of stick in place. I have prizes and I have questions to ask, okay? So what we'll do kind of hands up for the first for the first ones here, but these are some myths that I constantly hear about opioids. And the first one here, so stimulants like meth or jib will cancel out the effects of depressants. So we've heard, I'm sure we've heard that if somebody is going into an opioid poisoning emergency, give them something, blow crack smoke in their face, give them an upper like meth or something to kind of snap them out of that. Is that true or false? Hands up. Hands up. True or false? Who's putting? There's a prize. You got to put your. Okay, come on up here. Get a prize. False is true. Is correct. Good job. Stimulants cause the body to use up more oxygen and depress right here. Just any one of these prizes right there, dear. So you're if they're going into a depressant emergency, an opioid poisoning, their breathing is shutting down. Okay, if you give them a stimulant, they're going to want to breathe even faster on you, which is going to reduce their overall breathing overall. Okay, so essentially they're dying faster. So don't do that. Holy, take forever, you. I'm joking. How about this one, guys? And then we'll kick this young lady out of our prize table. Touching fentanyl. I'm just joking. Oh, touching fentanyl can cause an overdose, coma, or even death. True or false? Oh, I hear true and false. Who says false? Hands up. Who says false? Hands up. Is that true or false? Okay. Who says true? Hands up. Interesting. False. Okay. And this is quite interesting because I do hear this quite often. I'm sure we've all seen that video with the cop flopping on the ground, okay, after touching fentanyl or something. Most likely, no. Okay. I've been on scenes where fentanyl is or was, sorry. First of all, don't be touching mysterious powders, okay, on emergency scenes, right? What should we be wearing on our gloves, first of all? What did I just say that? What should we be wearing on our gloves? And you know what I did earlier? I was talking about 911 and I said, what's the number for 911? So anyways, most likely no. Okay, so if you see fentanyl on a scene, okay, so if this bag of fentanyl, okay, spilt, and relax, it's salt, spilt, okay, on an emergency scene, and I see a mysterious bag, don't go near it. Flag it for other responders so they know not to go near it. Put on gloves, okay? How fentanyl can cause a reaction from you for you is if you do touch it and you have an open sore or an open wound, okay? If you do touch it and it comes in contact with mucousy membrane, okay, that's how it's going to enter the bloodstream. So if you touch it and pick your nose, if you touch it and rub your gums or pick your butt, then it will enter your blood. So don't do any of that, okay? But more than likely, no, okay? More than likely, no. So you're all wrong. No, I'm just joking. First person to raise their hand right now. Good. Come on up here, get a prize. All right. Okay, guys, let's continue on. Risk factors for an opioid poisoning. Mixing drugs and substances. I'm going to talk about how certain substances, especially benzodiazepines, are reacting differently with a typical opioid poisoning. The amount and potency. Tolerance is a huge one, right? So going away for 6 months, say to a treatment center or prison or something, and returning and thinking you can use at the same level, and you certainly can't. Health status, route of administration, previous history, and using alone. Using alone is a big thing. So some opioid poisoning prevention, don't use alone. This is a life-saving application that we have in the Northwest. This is not in most NAN communities. This is Thunder Bay, Fort Francis, Sioux Lookout, some other communities as well. This is called the Lifeguard app, folks. This saved about 81 people's lives last year. I'm going to pass this around. I've put a QR code if you are interested in downloading this. This is for people who use drugs. I have a friend, she used to be an active drug user. That Lifeguard app contributed to saving her life. Basically, what happens is somebody who uses drugs will download that app on their phone and they set a timer, okay? And they'll use their drugs. And if they don't hit that stop button on that timer, that app is going to contact emergency services, okay, to rescue that person's life. It's a life-saving app. Share that, please. Don't let them use alone, okay? Use in a safe space. Do a test dose. I'm trying to get my hands on a testing kit. I used to have a xylazine testing kit, but I gave it out to someone. But test dose. I often hear for people who use drugs that they don't want to test their drugs because they don't want to lose their drugs. It's such a tiny, tiny amount that they test. But testing it will show if your cannabis contains fentanyl, okay? Testing it will show if your magic mushrooms contains fentanyl. your heroin, your cocaine, whatever drug you choose, more than likely contains fentanyl. Okay, err on the safe side and start small. Do a test dose. Know those risks of mixing drugs. Okay, it's dangerous, and we're gonna all carry and know how to use naloxone very soon. How am I doing on time? 128. Good. Okay. Harm reduction ideas. We do harm reduction every day. Okay. We do harm reduction every day, right? I don't know about speed limits in Thunder Bay. I do this new thing in Thunder Bay. It's called driving the speed limit, and people lose their mind. Okay. Harm reduction is contentious. I understand that. I don't agree with all elements of harm reduction because not all elements of harm reduction are working. Okay. And not all harm reduction elements work for everybody else, right? I share as many harm reduction elements that I can so that the end user can determine their own unique fit. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's talk about harm reduction and what I've learned along the way. Harm reduction means respect, dignity, and compassion. First Nations Health Authority in BC, who certainly is living through this opioid crisis. I'm going to show just one of the videos to honor the person in the video and then just share the messages with the other one. Harm reduction takes a team approach, a family approach, and a community approach. And I just love this. Wellness for one is truly wellness for all. I want to introduce Tracy. Okay, so why harm reduction? Because we're good people. There's supposed to be audio, but she says we're good people. We have families.
We're not the addiction.
Ghostbusters. Where did the Ghostbusters come from? Seriously, that was amazing. I have no idea. Can we try that again? Are you watching Ghostbusters over there, or are you just? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, we're gonna. Okay, let's reset that, guys. I just want to pay tribute to Tracy here. Let's watch this again. So, why harm reduction? All right.
We're good people. We have families. I'm somebody's sister. I'm somebody's auntie. We're people. We're not the addiction.
So we lost Tracy recently. My friend in BC told me that she recently passed away to a drug poisoning. So I just wanted to show the Tracy video there. But why harm reduction, right? To prevent people from dying, right? Unfortunately, there's still a few that slip through, and it's harm reduction. Why community harm
What is
reduction?
addiction to?
Why community harm reduction? Sorry, I'm just trying to flip through these here, guys. To keep people safer while using, right? And this is something I struggle with. I have a brother that uses drugs, and something I struggle with is, as much as I want him to get help, to get treatment, if that person truly isn't ready, they're not going to do it. But I can keep him safe, okay, while he uses, and that's what I've learned over the time, to create this safe little bubble around him, and to keep them safe while using. They're still going to use, but we could just keep that environment safer for them. Support people on their healing journey as well. Harm reduction certainly does not enable substance use. Sorry, folks, I'm just skipping along here. Harm reduction truly saves lives. Look more into harm reduction. I would urge you. I have more pamphlets up here talking about harm reduction. But what I always say, especially when I travel to our NAN communities, is make harm reduction work for your community, okay? Because it's supposed to look different for your community, because we all live in unique communities for a reason, right? So that's what I would encourage. And certainly, if anybody is in need of harm reduction materials, please reach out to me, and I will bombard you with as many resources as I can. All right, folks, let's talk about what naloxone is, okay? So I'm hoping to dispel a lot of myths about naloxone. Naloxone is a safe drug, okay? It is safe. You cannot overdose on naloxone, okay? I could take naloxone right now, and since I have no opioids in my system, there's nothing for naloxone to work on. So I would feel very little to no effects whatsoever. Naloxone is typically fast acting, typically takes about 2 minutes to take effect, and it will temporarily reverse the effects of an opioid poisoning. Keyword being temporarily, okay? We typically have about 15 to 45 minutes in time frame per nasal spray, okay? I would love to see this, okay? And this is a opioid overdose safety kit. I'm a first aid geek, so usually I look where the AED is and all the emergency exits, and it's just my weird thing. But I haven't seen this yet because there's a lot of bureaucracy that's still involved with naloxone administration. But how cool would it be to start seeing public access naloxone kits in shopping centers or certainly schools, right? I truly believe there should be an AED, okay? Right next to that AED cabinet should be another cabinet containing naloxone and perhaps an auto injector, okay, like an EpiPen. But that's just my crazy dream. Just some quick facts about naloxone, okay? Each nasal spray is about 4 milligrams per applicator. Only about 2 milligrams gets absorbed, okay? Each applicator has a shelf life of 3 years. So naloxone does expire. There's an expiration date on your naloxone. Keep in mind that even expired naloxone is better than no naloxone, okay? Maximum dose, okay, if you want more information on any of this, I do have more information up here, but the maximum dose, you can't overdose on naloxone, but the maximum dose that the human body can take is about 10 milligrams, and essentially the body just needs more time to absorb more naloxone, and I'll explain more about that later. This is kind of cool, the temperature tolerance. So I've been teaching when we've had 2 different variations of naloxone, and the new formula has that red plunger on it, and that tells us that that's the new, much more temperature-tolerant version of naloxone from minus 15 degrees Celsius to plus 25 degrees Celsius. I have my personal naloxone kit that I brought right here, and I'll hand it out in a moment. But my personal naloxone kit goes in and out of my vehicle every single day, even with that kind of temperature tolerance. Naloxone's active in the body for only 20 to 45 minutes, and that's going to be important for the rescue, and I'm going to be talking about the rescue in just a moment. Naloxone's safe for all ages. I've heard of naloxone being given to babies, being given to toddlers, right? Not so much for drug use, but perhaps mistaking granny's medication for candy or something, right? So certainly safe for all ages. Nasal naloxone can only be sprayed in the nose, so no other body holes. Oh, it starts to take effect within 2 to 3 minutes, which is also very important to know for the rescue as well, which I'll be talking about shortly. Okay, hands up, folks. True or false? If I administer naloxone incorrectly, I could seriously injure somebody. False. Who said it over here? Who said it? Oh, false. You got it. Good. That is absolutely false. Come on up here, young lady. Grab a prize. Yay. False. There are no reported cases of injury or death from giving naloxone. I read a couple studies because I'm not much of a nerd, and there was a concern about pregnant ladies and naloxone. Because there was an allergy kind of a mix-up or something, but no concerns whatsoever, even with pregnant ladies. What did she take? She take my computer? No? Oh. Good job. So naloxone facts, it cannot be misused, right? It is an absolutely safe drug, and it only works on opioids. If your community is in need of naloxone, here is how to order it. There's that poster right up there, folks. All right. Ooh, I always trick people with this one. Okay. Narcan and naloxone are the same drug. True or false? False? Ah. Who says true? Oh. Oh, come on up here, young lady in the purple. Yeah. Narcan and naloxone are the same drug. So if you look more closely and open up your kit, you'll see that the individual spray says Narcan on it. So Narcan is the brand name for naloxone, just like Tylenol is the brand name for. Very good. Cool, eh? I tricked you. All right, so here's that slide I was looking for earlier. So naloxone in the brain, okay? So these are opioids in the brain that I was talking about earlier, those red balls. When naloxone is introduced, these green things, those receptors, the empty receptors, naloxone clings to the same receptors that opioids cling to. And naloxone also has the ability to boot off some of those opioid cells. I always say, though, like it's a temporary barrier, okay? So it's this temporary barrier over that cell because over time, right, depending on the toxicity of those opioids, they're going to keep hammering to try to get in, and within 15 to 45 minutes, if we're lucky, they will get in, okay? Naloxone wears off, okay? And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. All right, let's get familiar with our naloxone kits. So everybody open up your kits, please. Okay, and I do have additional kits and the ability to hand out many more kits as well to our communities. Inside of your kits, okay, I'm not going to open one up because my hands are full, but you have that hard case, okay? So after administering everything, what could you use that hard case for? Okay, I want you to start thinking about that. So what could you use that hard case for? Hey? Pills? Pillow. Oh my God. Sure. Yeah, maybe a pillow. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, so what I've used them for before is to collect sharps, right? Or other things that could hurt first responders on that scene. So there's your hard case. You have 2 doses of nasal naloxone, okay? The typical rescue in Thunder Bay right now is taking 2 doses. So I suggest carrying 2 kits, which is 4 nasal sprays in total, okay? 1 face barrier, okay? So I'm going to show us what a typical rescue looks like over here momentarily, and I'm going to show you why we need a face barrier for the rescue, okay? 1 pair of non-latex gloves, okay? That's our PPE. That protects us. And 1 trainer's card. I want everybody to put today's date on that trainer's card at the end of this presentation, just so you remember when you took this training. I recommend too, if you're not if you're not exposed to doing first aid or this kind of stuff, perhaps to take this kind of training every maybe once a year or once every couple years or something. This right here, okay, and this is important to talk about the Good Samaritan's Drug Overdose Act, and I actually made a separate slide for this, okay. And if you don't have this, I do have a laminator. I went crazy with the laminator yesterday, but yeah, here it is right here. Take a photo of it, okay. The Good Samaritan Drug Overdose Act is very important in sharing, okay, because we're losing people to drug poisonings, okay, because unfortunately they don't want to call 911, okay? The Good Samaritan Drug Overdose Act protects others on that scene that are reluctant to call emergency services because they have a gram of coke in their pocket, okay, and they don't want to get in trouble, okay? And it's terrible. But the Good Samaritan Drug Overdose Act does provide a little bit of protection for that person that's unconscious and their buddies in that possessing drugs for your own use. You won't get any charges for violating conditions of your parole, bail, probation, or conditional sentence as well for simple drug possession charges. Honestly, there's more going against the person than going for them, but in my opinion, the Good Samaritan Drug Overdose Act is a step in the right direction for people who use drugs. This is my personal kit right here. Actually, I'll hand it out. So I made, oh, thanks. So you're amazing. Ever cool you? Okay, so this is my kit. I got my little shell kit from the dollar store, my favorite store. Duct tape, because you always need duct tape everywhere you go. I have a light, because most opioid poisoning emergencies happen at night. I have 2 kits in here, as well as 2 emergency space blankets. Okay, that's that comfort element of this rescue. And I have one of these, just real quick. Why I put a Nutrigrain bar, I learned this from somebody that lives on the streets. Because I bought him a box of granola bars, and I guess he didn't have teeth, so he said, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? He couldn't chew them. So I felt bad, so I bought him Nutrigrain bars, and I learned from him that it's just easier for some folks that don't have teeth. So I do that as a bribe sometimes to get them to come sit down with me, especially if they're showing all signs and symptoms of a poisoning. Hey, come on over here, look what I have. Or after the rescue, I would slip it in their pocket. After the rescue, if they become conscious, they'll find a nice little treat later on as well. Okay, so that's my personal kit. Check it out. Make your own kit, okay? It doesn't have to look just like that, but just make it your own, okay? I'm going to get into the rescue now, okay? And this is important in the rescue: peel, place, and press, okay? So remember that, okay? And I'm going to demonstrate this in just a moment. Peel the package open, Okay, place the tip in the nostril of the unconscious person or conscious person and press firmly. Okay, I'm going to skip this video, folks, and I'm going to get right into what does a typical poisoning look like. I've expanded this slide over the years because a lot of unusual signs and symptoms are now becoming more typical. Okay, so I'm going to get into that in a moment. But what I want you to look at first for somebody slipping into an opioid poisoning is their face. Okay, and if somebody is slipping into a poisoning from opioids, their respiratory system is shutting down. Okay, their breathing is shutting down. And what's a very obvious sign on somebody's face that they're having trouble breathing? Say it. Say it. Perfect. Good job. What color are their lips, nose, and earlobes going to be? Perfect. So for white folks like me, the lips, tip of the nose, earlobes, and fingertips are going to be blue in color. Okay. For BIPOC folks, so Black, Indigenous people of color, it's going to be more gray or purple in color. Okay. So it's a very evident sign that somebody's slipping into a distress, right? So either blue, gray, or purple lips, nose, earlobes, and fingertips. And there's a reason why that happens. I just don't have enough time to go into it, but that is a very obvious sign. They might be slow with breathing or completely absent with breathing, okay? They might be semi-conscious, they might be completely unconscious, okay? I've experienced both, unconscious, I've experienced semi-conscious, okay? Okay, they might not be able to wake up. Okay, and I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. You might be hearing these snoring sounds coming out of that person's body. There's a term called a heavy nod. They may be in this heavy nod, which means their head continuously droops down like this. Okay, they would make this snoring sound. Okay, and then they might jolt up like that and kind of keep that heavy nod going. The last rescue that I was involved with at NAN, actually, the lady was in a heavy nod and she started stretching like this. And as soon as she started stretching, even though she told me to go fly a kite because I showed her naloxone, she didn't want it. As soon as she started stretching and she did another heavy nod, I instructed my friend Summer to tilt her head back and I gave her a shot of naloxone. Okay. Was I protected? What if she, and we saved her, by the way, but she completely told me to fly a kite, okay? And I did the exact opposite for that lady, okay? I gave her naloxone even though she didn't want it, okay? I could have been sued, right? She could have sued me, okay? Okay, how was I protected? Where's my first aiders? Good, perfect, okay? And that's exactly right, okay? Because if I would have done nothing to that lady, what would have happened? She would have died. She would have died, okay? So I was protected knowing that, okay? But she started stretching. Okay, remember that one. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Another very obvious sign are these tiny, tiny, tiny pupils. Okay, if they're semi-conscious, look in their eyes. Okay, and if they have tiny little pupils, big check mark in my books. If they're unconscious, put on your gloves. Okay, and open up their eyelids. Tiny pupils, big check mark. Okay, big check mark. Other signs and symptoms, breathing slow or absent. The magic number for this is 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, and I'm going to explain more about that in a moment. But if somebody is not taking one breath or even two breaths every 5 to 10 seconds, that is not normal breathing. Okay, so breathing slow or absent. Dizzy and disorientation, so they might be kind of unsteady on their feet. Another one that I didn't put up here is called the fentanyl fold. So you might see folks in this position. They're completely folded over like this. We see them almost every day outside of where I work. And what's happening is their body is shutting down. Okay, so their body wants to sleep and lay down, but their mind, okay, is trying to stay awake so that they could experience that euphoric experience or whatever they're trying to experience. It's very unusual, but that's called the fentanyl fold. Cold or clammy skin, you could feel that, and you could certainly see that on somebody's skin as well. These are other signs. See, I updated it. It used to say unusual. These are now other signs and symptoms. An ugly overdose is what it's called on the street, and that's when carfentanil is involved. Those very toxic, elevated man-made opioids. This is what that lady started demonstrating. When that lady was in a heavy nod and then she started stretching, okay, she was almost like flexing. She was on something like that. She was on carfentanil or nitazine or something else that is so toxic. And once she started stretching like that, that was all the evidence that I needed to administer naloxone. And we saw a reaction within about 45 seconds. She reacted. And then we lost her. Unfortunately, paramedics came barging in and men in uniform scared her away. Another coworker ran out and clipped one of these kits on her. So we hope she ran with a friend. But she was showing an ugly overdose, okay? Another very common type of poisoning that we see now is called a soft overdose. And why it's called a soft overdose is benzos are involved. Benzodiazepines are involved, which is another type of depressant. And what makes it so frustrating and scary for first responders, first aiders, family members, right, is all life-saving measures don't appear to be working, okay? So I only have 3.5 rescues under my belt. And normally, after you give 1-2 doses of naloxone and start doing other life-saving measures, you're going to see a reversal. Okay, you should start to see a reversal, which means color returning to face, breathing returning normal, etc. Right? When they're on benzos and they're in a soft overdose, all life-saving measures don't look like they're working. Okay, even though you checked off all of those boxes, okay, for a poisoning, it doesn't appear to be working, and they're still not breathing properly. Okay, so the only thing I can say for soft overdose is, and I'll throw it back on our folks here, if I've done everything to my ability and naloxone is not taking effect, and this person is still not breathing properly, what am I doing now until paramedics arrive? Perfect. There's my first aiders. CPR. Okay, it reverts right back to a first aid scene. CPR until paramedics arrive. Okay, that's a soft overdose. Some other unusual signs and symptoms that are becoming more usual are these involuntary jerky movements. And I experienced that talking to somebody not too long ago, trying to make my way to dollar store. But you might see these kind of jerky movements. It's almost like twitching. Involuntary twitching, vomiting. Usually after the rescue, they might vomit, but seizure as well. We're seeing a lot of seizures. If we get post-seizure care in my community, it's unfortunately, due to an opioid poisoning or maybe a carbon monoxide. But usually when we're called for post-seizure care, we're expecting something like this now. I think my clicker does. Oh, there. Okay, we're getting into the rescue now. If you suspect a poisoning, please don't hit them. Please don't kick them. This is another thing that you might be able to kind of knock them out. Don't do any of that, okay? That's not a first aid thing to do. Don't leave them alone, okay? Please try to stay with them. Don't throw cold water at them. Don't throw them in the shower. I've heard all sorts of things. You're going to overstimulate them and do damage. Don't give them other drugs, okay? And certainly, please don't let them sleep it off. We see this with a lot of our young people, in that they'll go to house parties and they'll see, a friend or somebody sleeping on the couch or in the corner, thinking that they're just sleeping it off. They're just having a nap or something, and they could be in an opioid poisoning. I'm that kind of person in my life where I like pushing buttons. I teach fire safety, so I can say that push the button, test your smoke alarm. But I'm also good at kind of pushing buttons. Don't be afraid to wake people up. Okay. Even if they tell you to go fly a kite, which most people do, you've done your due diligence, okay? Once they will come to the realization that you were just indeed trying to help them out. Don't let them sleep it off, okay? All right, responding to an opioid poisoning, okay? So now that we know what a typical opioid poisoning looks like, what do? Okay, so save me, save me, save me, save me, save me, save me, save me. Okay, so if you suspect an opioid poisoning, oh my God, my battery just died. Hi, Ghostbuster. Okay. Oh, thank you. Opioid poisoning emergency scene awareness. Okay, so before doing anything, here's the thing, and I truly believe that psychology is more infectious than the flu. And what I mean by that is, especially in emergency scenes, how you present yourself going into that scene truly, truly matters, right? If you go into a scene all freaked out and frantic and everything, can you imagine how this person is going to feel, right? Okay. But before doing anything, make sure that scene is safe, okay? Because who is the most important person on this scene now, me or them? Me. Okay, and never forget that. Okay. Oh, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Good. Cool, guys. I got a new clicker in my pocket. No, I'm just joking. Make sure you're safe, okay? We have a couple of folks in our encampment that have survival pets. I'm a dog lover, okay? Not all dogs know that, okay? That dog is for that person, okay? But just be cautious with that, as well as community members, okay? This is another big one here, okay? I truly believe in non-judgmental, empathetic approach to most things that I do. Meaning, I don't give a shit how this person lying over there got in that state. Okay, that person can be suffering from a diabetic emergency or an opioid poisoning. Okay, but this is somebody's auntie. Okay, this is like we just saw Tracy. This is somebody's dad. This is a community member that needs help. Okay, and that's non-judgmental, empathetic approach. Okay, community members. Okay, the friends of the fallen might not know that. Okay, they may have had bad experiences. Okay, with other people. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. Watch the scene for anything else that could hurt you or other first responders, including drug paraphernalia, pipes, etc. And be cautious with head and neck injuries. So I usually treat head and neck injuries, an unconscious person that I find. Certainly, if I didn't witness the fall, I automatically just assume a head and spinal injury, and I treat accordingly, kind of treat around this. Here is a myth, okay, and I kind of just gave it away, but this is something that I do like to talk about because this is something also that we've heard, okay, that people will become violent when coming out of an overdose, okay? Hands up for true. True, okay. Get out. No, I'm just joking. This is false, okay? And I like dispelling this. There have been reports, okay? I've seen it, I've heard it before, okay? But if you set up that scene properly and you truly, truly want to help this person, okay? More than likely when they wake up, they're going to be confused, they're going to be disoriented, okay? And probably embarrassed, okay? And keep that in mind, okay? Also protect yourself, okay? And just know, we had a conversation this morning. I was teaching a part of this course this morning, and it happens, okay? We might see somebody in a heavy nod or asleep, okay? And if we approach them, certainly walking with naloxone, they're going to tell you, no naloxone, I'm okay, right? Keep an eye on them, but don't be a pest so that you become hit or swatted at or anything like that as well. Keep an eye on yourself, but you can set up that scene well enough, okay? So that when they do revive, okay, they're at a state where they won't be violent, okay? First person to raise their hand gets a prize. Okay, boom. Come on up here. Yep, okay, good. Cool. I got to get rid of them all. All right, yep. Okay, guys, peel, place, and press, okay? So what that looks like is, if I can get the camera on me over here, if possible, please. I'm going to try to kind of shout here, but what that looks like is, okay, I hope everybody can see this. And I'm going to hand this around as well. This is one of my trainers, okay? And this looks, I'll go real slow so the camera doesn't move away. But this looks just like the ones that you have inside of your kits, okay? So peel it open, okay? Just like you would peel a yogurt or something. Place, okay? So these are single use. I'm going to set one off momentarily. That's an expired one to show you how easy these are. You don't have to prime these. You don't have to shake these. You hold it just like I used to smoke those little cigars. Oh, they were so good. Okay. Hold it just like those beautiful little cigars I used to smoke. Okay. And press. So when you go over to the conscious, or in this case, unconscious casualty, tilt their head back. Okay. Take a first aid class. Pick a nostril. Okay. It doesn't matter which nostril you pick. Okay. If one nostril is impaired, pick the other one. Okay. Pick a nostril, push it in their nose until your fingers come into contact with their nose, just like this. Okay, if you could see that on the video. Okay, and now simply press. I'm just going to press that plunger in, and now I've administered nasal naloxone. Okay, I'm going to show you also later for parts of the rescue. If you have to administer more than one dose, I was taught by my friend Rhonda to leave this one in their nose, to leave that one in their nostril. Because if I'm administering another dose, I'm going to know which nostril to put it into. I'm going to put it into that empty nostril, okay? And the reason being, there might be an impairment in this side that we're not aware of, okay? So that's just a little trick that I've learned over the years. Heel, place, and press. Okay, very important. Thank you. If we can go back to the slide. Is mine or hers? Oh, here's hers. There's that clicker. Awesome. Peel, place, and press. Suspect an opioid poisoning. Remember, save, me to save a life. Okay, I got 17 minutes. Save me, okay? Save me if done correctly works. Okay. I've done it. Many people have done it. There is another poster that is in your kits. Okay. The other poster that's in your kits is a more down and dirty derivative of this. Okay. And they're both correct. Okay. Save me, save me, save me. Okay. So let's go through it in detail and then I'll show you what it looks like over here. Okay. Save me. The first thing I want you to do is stimulate them. Okay. Try to wake them up. Okay. What we're seeing sometimes is that by simply stimulating this body, that is enough to wake them up. Okay. And if we wake them up, do everything in your power to keep them awake. Okay. So what that looks like is make noise. Okay. Induce a little bit of pain. Okay. So watch this. Hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. Hello. Can you hear me? Oh my goodness. Look what I'm doing. Yeah. I did this once. I was teaching first aid in an office building, and all the office staff came in. And I was like, good job, guys. Good. Okay. So make noise, clap around them, try to wake them up. If that doesn't work, pinch their earlobe, okay, is what we recommend now. This would be invoking a little bit of physical pain to try to wake them up. If you're an old school first aider like me, you remember that sternum rub, okay, or that trap squeeze, do something to invoke a little bit of pain to wake them up, okay? And if you wake them up, do everything in your power to keep them awake. Hey, man, I was worried about you. Okay, let's talk. Okay, talk to them. Okay, keep them awake. Sometimes that stimulation works. Okay, tell them jokes. Okay, just try to keep them awake. Okay. I teach with two first aid organizations, the St. John Ambulance and Canadian Red Cross, and I just found out that they're changing one of the most common symbols of first aid. Janine probably heard about this. Janine. Okay, you probably heard about this, right? Because I know you're a big fan of first aid. So did you know that they're changing the international symbol for choking? What's the symbol for choking, guys? Right. Okay, do you know what they're changing the symbol for choking to? The Toronto Maple Leafs logo. So they keep choking in the playoffs. Look at him. He's bowing his head in shame. Like, don't look at me. Sorry, guys. All right. Okay. Sorry, I had to bring us back here. Save me, save me, save me. Stimulate. Okay, this is important. If you can't wake them up, okay, if stimulating them doesn't wake them up, call backup. Okay, whatever that backup looks like. Okay, call the nursing station, call NAPS, call 911 if it works in your community. Get help on the way. Okay, so now that you have help on the way, remember the Good Samaritan Drug Overdose Act. Open their airway and ventilate. This is important, but this is optional. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this is optional. Okay, it's a lot of first aid organizations' stance that by reintroducing oxygen to a body that is deprived of oxygen is the best practice. Okay, but the reason I say this is optional is inside of our kits, we have a single-use barrier device. Okay, so this here is a single-use barrier device, okay, which offers a little bit of protection for me, the first aider, okay? But I have cousins, especially in Timmins, that even with one of these, I don't want to go anywhere near their face, okay? So, and I mean that, okay, in that that person might have something that could affect me, okay? So why I say this is optional, and the health unit does this as well, is if you're not comfortable for whatever reason ventilating, skip this part, okay? But I can tell you, most cases than not, if you see a fellow human being, okay, that needs your air, you're going to do it, okay, especially a community member, okay? So if it's possible, okay, open their airway, take a first aid course, head, tail, chin lift, okay, we'll open that person's airway and give them 5 big breaths, okay? That's life-saving breaths, okay? And that's an important part of this rescue. 5 big breaths, okay? Ventilate 5 times. Evaluate, save me, save me, save me. This is the first evaluate, okay? And this is important because stimulating them didn't wake them up. Maybe those 5 big breaths were enough to wake them up, okay? That's what this first evaluate is, okay? I'm going to keep them in this position, head, tilt, chin lift, look, listen, feel. What's that magic number that I told you earlier? How long? 5 to 10 seconds, that's it, okay? Because if this person is not breathing normally, 1 to 2 breaths every 5 to 10 seconds, medicate, okay? Save me, save me, save me. medicate, okay? You're all going to be trained on how to deliver nasal naloxone very shortly. And I would urge you perhaps to come up maybe on break. If you want a little bit more practice, we can set up the mannequin, okay? Or have me in your community. I'd love to come up there as well. Medicate, okay? What's the magic thing here? Peel, place, and press, okay? Peel the package, okay? Place it in your hands, place it in the tip of their nostril, and press that plunger in. And now you've delivered 1 dose of nasal naloxone. Save me, save me, save me. This is the next important step as well. The final E, evaluate, is, okay, is that working? I've just delivered 1 dose of nasal naloxone, okay? Typically, naloxone takes 2 to 3 minutes to take full effect, okay? Is it working? Sometimes you might see them react 15 seconds, 30 seconds down the road, okay? You might see a quick reaction. If you see a quick reaction and they start breathing again within within the 5 to 10 seconds, the ideal position for this person is called the recovery position, okay? Does anybody remember the recovery position, right? To get them on their side, perfect. Take a first aid course. This is the recovery position. Get them on their side. That's also known as the drainage position because any fluids that build up will drain safely out of that body. Save me, save me, save me. Evaluate and support. If they are not breathing properly, this is important, okay? If they are not breathing properly after giving them 1 dose of nasal naloxone, okay, within 5 to 10 seconds, if this person is still not breathing properly, what are we trained to do for non-breathing casualties? Say it. CPR. Perfect. Okay. How long does it typically take for naloxone to take effect? 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. So I want you now to do 2 minutes of CPR. Yep. Okay, you can do it. Do compression only CPR, okay, if you're uncomfortable doing the 30 compressions to 2 ventilations. This is important, okay, because we've just given this person 5 big breaths. We've reintroduced oxygen, okay? The point of doing CPR is this person's heart is no longer beating properly, so we need to recirculate this person's blood, okay, which now includes our oxygen in it. Okay, before their brain starts dying, before their lungs, etc. Okay, that's the point of CPR. Okay, if you're not comfortable, just get on that chest and push hard and fast for a couple minutes. Okay, and if there's still no reaction after doing 2 minutes of CPR, guess what? I got a lot of these. Okay, I got 3 more of these. Okay, go back to the ME part. Okay, and medicate. Okay, choose the other nostril, peel, place, press. Okay, evaluate 5 to 10 seconds. Are they breathing? No, they're still not breathing. Do another couple minutes of CPR, give them another dose, okay? More than likely, after 2 or 3 doses, okay, rescue should be arriving, okay? Nursing station, paramedics, whoever should be arriving on that scene. Bystanders should be arriving on that scene to start helping you out, okay? Save me, save me, save me. Stimulate, airway, ventilate, evaluate, medicate, evaluate. Good question. Absolutely, you do. Yep. So 100%. So the question was, can you give naloxone to a semi-conscious person? Okay, so somebody in a heavy nod, okay, somebody that's still talking, hey man, I think I took too much, right? 100% yes. 100%. Okay, they're probably going to say no. Okay, why would they say no? In all seriousness. Exactly. They don't want us to ruin their buzz, right? And I hate that. I hate that because I don't know the answer. The only answer, is that my time? The only answer that I have is this might be your last buzz. Okay, you know. But yeah, good question. Very good question. Okay. All right, folks, let me just kind of wrap this up a little bit here. This is important as well. So I truly believe that if we set up that scene properly, okay, that person is not going to have a bad experience. They're still going to feel sick, okay, but they're not going to flee. They're not going to come up wanting to swing or whatever else we hear, right? Stay with them, okay, if you can, okay, until paramedics arrive or help arrives. Keep in mind that withdrawal is very uncomfortable. I have a friend, she used to be an active drug user, and she hated to be revived with nasal naloxone because it was just the worst flu you've ever had times 10 right now. It was just all of a sudden, and it was just horrible for her. So she experienced all of this just so quickly. So my goodness, I can't imagine, right? And this is important to remember that that person, okay, just experienced trauma in real time. They did, okay? And I can't imagine being in their shoes and going through that, how scary it would be, right? Tell them help's on the way, okay? I'm here with you now, okay? There's a reason I have those space blankets in my kit, okay? Because I'm putting a space blanket on them, and I'll probably give them one of those Nutrigrain bars if I haven't eaten it yet. Okay, if they're unconscious, recovery position. This is important too. Keep in mind naloxone does wear off. Okay, so send them home with another one. Okay, clip it on their belt, or just make sure that they're aware that those symptoms may emerge again. Okay, and finally, before I turn it over for questions, I can't believe I kept it on time. I'm proud of me. Don't forget about you. Okay. So I may have mentioned, but I'm a burned out healthcare worker. So usually a lot of my presentations, whether I'm teaching first aid or mental health first aid or harm reduction, I always introduce that medicine circle and talk about how each quadrant needs to be balanced in our life. And that's important. And it's important for me to talk about self care because I don't want to be burned out again. It's a bad experience, it's a bad place to be. So I practice self care every single day of my life. And I would urge you to practice something, okay, in your life, especially in your line of work, okay, that brings you joy, okay, and brings you happiness, whatever that looks like, okay. It's something, I always say the last person that, the last person that I was good at helping was myself, right? So, but that's not anymore. So, does that make sense, guys? Okay, cool. I have a whole bunch of prizes. I don't know how I'm going to give them out. Janine's going to help us with that, but maybe we'll play musical chair. No, just joking. All right, guys, that's all I got. Oh, wait. Yeah, okay. These are questions now. I think we have a question.
What do you recommend for, say, a woman who is alone and wanting to be safe in a situation that is scary?
Yeah, so a woman alone that's using that wants to be safe, right?
No, like if I happen to find someone who is in
Oh,
need
I
of
got you. I
moving.
got you. Okay. Yeah. 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 I told the group this morning. This morning I talked to a group of like all ages, and I had a sweet little elder ask me a very similar question. Right? She wants to help, but she feels that she was very limited. And the answer is if all you do on that scene is sit in your car and call 911, you've done it. And I'm serious. You've done it. That's first aid. That is doing something for somebody in a safe way, right? Because you're not sure. Okay. Never put yourself at risk, right? Never ever put yourself at risk. Okay. And call from afar. Try to do first aid from afar. Okay. If more people arrive, okay, on that scene and you feel more comfortable, go for it. Okay. I truly believe that we all offer intrinsic value on these emergency scenes and transferable skills, whatever that looks like. And if your role is to be that person that calls 911, you're part of the fix. Okay. Good question. Cool. Any other questions, guys? Please keep them coming. While you're thinking, my role at NAN is Crisis Response Training Coordinator. I go to community and do this and other things as part of our training team. We have 49 communities. I've gone to 14 so far. Take a picture of my contact information. Call me at NAN. Get a hold of me. I'm going to a number of communities so far. Deer Lake, Peawanuck, Sandy Lake, those communities. So those are on my radar this year. If you're in one of those communities, hit me up. But if you're not, reach out to our community wellness training team and get us up there because I'd love to come. Question? Yep.
So it's two parts. If I ran out of these, where would I get more in Thunder Bay?
In Thunder Bay, okay, so I'll answer that right away. Any pharmacy in Thunder Bay should give those out. Sometimes pharmacies run out. So if the pharmacy doesn't have them, I recommend going to the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. Anishinaabe Nation and the Health Unit has an MOU, which allows me to deliver naloxone to any of our 49 First Nation communities. Usually I'll ship up a box of 60. I've shipped up 4 boxes to one community many times if needed. So posters right there. If you are in a NAN community and you need naloxone, grab that poster.
That was kind of my next question. These are education directors.
Yep.
So would they go to their health unit in community?
Sure, you can go to your health unit as well.
You could give it to them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the health unit should have the ability to distribute naloxone. But if they don't, or they're overwhelmed or overworked, with which a lot of our health units, especially our nursing stations, are, grab that poster and I'll ship them up. Huh? Cool. And what was the question? Oh. Any other questions, guys? Sorry, Maple Leaf fans. I'm a Penguin. Yeah. Awesome. I know. Okay, guys. I thank you so much for listening to me talk about this important stuff. This is very important to talk about. These are the prizes that I brought from the wellness team. There's some pretty cool stuff here, I think. I'm going to leave it up to our friend over here to give out, if that's okay. Have fun with that. I'm also going to leave my extra naloxone up here. Okay, so by all means, if you need one or two or three, grab some. And I'll leave some more of the posters up here as well. Okay, guys.
Miigwech, give it up for Brian, everybody.